Hey, g'day guys, Adam from VideoShowMeHow. In this one, I've had a few people waiting for because we are doing part 3 today of the DIY canopy or tray, tub removal, tray install, and then canopy install. So today's video, we're gonna have a look through all the bits and bobs that we ended up going with for the canopy. I'll talk through sort of the interior and everything that we're going with there. And then finally, I'll give a bit of a run through on the big plans we've got in the upcoming videos for the full fit out of the canopy. So without further ado, let's get started. So if you haven't watched part 2 or part 1 and part 2 of this, part 1 we covered removing the old tub from the DMAX. Part 2 was then installing our DIY tray. We've gone with the full steel tray. This is an 1800, so it is a full length tray. And then finally part 3, which is installing this guy and doing a bit of a tour of the 1800 triple door jack off canopy. So as far as the installation goes of this one, it definitely is DIY. In fact, this is the easiest DIY because it is literally just plonked on top of the existing tray. How this works is it's literally just using the tray as the floor, and then this guy as one unit gets bolted or plonked on top and bolted down. Now, super easy. If you have a forklift, I was lucky enough to have access to one of those where the guys were able to effectively just slide this guy on. You can use the jack off points with this style of canopy by putting some of the legs, these guys here, because it is that jack off. You can have an equivalent in there to lift the thing on. It's only about that 70 odd kilos, so it's not that heavy. The tray's where most of the weight is because I did go that steel tray. So this guy isn't too bad. A couple of people on each corner, well, a person on each corner easily will be able to lift this guy on, and it's a matter of just bolting it down. So let's do a bit of a tour. It is worth noting that this is actually the final sort of pre-production version. The main thing you may see for the eagle eyes is the door does kink out just a smidge, largely because in that particular process they were sent separately, so there was no QA to be able to spot that. So we've got a new one of those on the way. You'll see that in upcoming videos where it's all nice and flush as you would expect, but everything else is pretty well exactly what you'd see on the website. Speaking of websites, I will put a link in the video description down below from Cane Toad, where I think they are doing a bit of a package deal where if you want this exact setup, they've got some better pricing if you get the whole lot in one go. So if we do a bit of a tour around the outside to kick us off, you will see that it is a triple door. Now, I did a bit of a post a little while back when we were first looking through this and starting to do some planning and design on the new one, on a couple of the Facebook posts and on the YouTube channel. There was a few hundred respondents, and I don't think anyone said a triple door. I think maybe 1 or 2 people said, you know what, triple door is the way to go. So I'm interested to see what people think here. Let me know in the comments down below. There's probably a couple of reasons of going with the full triple door. And the first one for me really is functionality, because for me, when I am doing my sort of camping and cooking, and for me also the DMAX is kind of a do all the things vehicle. So I need to be able to park in an office building, for example, in car park type scenarios. I need to be able to carry stuff in the back, so I can't have it fully fitted out all the time. And then I want to be able to go on long touring trips. We've got another Cape trip planned in 27 and all sorts. So there's everything in between from a wheeling perspective and a camping perspective. So it kind of needs to be a jack of all trades. The second one there was really around how I camp. And if you've watched any of the DMAX videos on the channel, you will know that my setup in those setup videos of the final build, not so final build now actually, but the full setup with the tub and that sort of thing, I'll link it in the description. You'll know that I sort of do all my cooking and camping part on, well, what was the tailgate, but I don't have a tailgate anymore. So I really like the idea of having the trundle drawer, which at the moment is a bit of a mess, still trying to work out what to put in here, but this will be my cooking area. So I'll be able to put everything on there and that will act as my tailgate. And then thirdly was space. I want to have plenty of room in the back here to be able to carry everything. I definitely think the downsides of that is maybe the looks. I don't know, what do you reckon? I've obviously gone the color match. I'm a big fan of the blue and black theme, so we're continuing that. I think it looks pretty good. Not as good, of course, if you've got big tire and jerry cans and all that jazz. For super long-term subscribers to the channel, you'll know that before the DMAX, I had a pretty big built Jeep JK with all sorts of stuff, and it had, the 35 hanging off the back and the jerry can, even a high lift at the time. And of course, it looks awesome, right? Like I'm absolutely under no illusions that is the way to go from a looks department. But the other thing was weight, and I want to keep the spare living underneath here for that weight to use the factory mounting location, weight down nice and low, well, lowish anyway, still with some clearance. We've got the Tag XR on here for high clearance, but keeping a center of gravity down low when you're doing some proper wheeling. We've got the 80 litre water tank that lives underneath here as well. So as far as you know, weight over the rear axle, you can't get better than that. And even where we're putting our second tank, which will live just in there as soon as I can get off my butt and go and pick it up, that's going to be a 40 litre. That's a 40 litre stainless tank, which we're going to use for a second diesel tank. So that'll give me 2 Jerrys there. So as far as weight distribution goes, it can't be beat, right? And that's always been the thing that's been on my mind, was stacking the back with too much weight up high, and arguably probably in the worst spot when it comes to proper wheeling and stability. Now, I'll probably get crucified in the comments for that, I know, but let me know what you reckon. That weight thing is definitely a thing for me. You know, other people have commented about the length of this guy, but if you look at where the toe ball is, it's still behind the toe ball, so I'm pretty comfy with the 1800. Weight wise, you've got to remember, guys, that this guy right here is designed to hold 350 kilos. So provided I don't have all this weight hanging off the back, you know, tire and a couple of jerry cans and a ladder, you're quickly up to 100 kilos. So there goes your ball weight, and the chassis is engineered to carry that amount of weight right there. So if you think about it, provided I don't have, you know, 400 kilos stacked right in the end here, I think it's going to be a-okay. Anyway, that was my reasoning for the triple door setup. What do you reckon? I'm sure I'll have lots of opinions. Let me know in the comment. I'm keen to hear from you, because there's 1,000 different ways to go with this, and this is my first foray into the full tray and canopy. Let me know what you reckon. Right, enough jibber jabber. I reckon let's get this thing open and have a look. You'll see big whale tails on everything. These aren't a central lock at the moment, but I am definitely going to be looking at doing that, and you'll see that in an upcoming video. I might whiz around and open everything else up. So if we have a look inside, we'll start on the doors. You can see that everything, well, for starters, everything is powder coated with a really high quality black, which is pretty good to see. Nice quality finish on everything. The doors have these reinforcement bars on both of the big panels, which is great to see, because on one close here, you'll see there's no deflection on the doors, so they're not warping and carrying on. Even though these things are 400 Newton meters on both sides, it keeps the doors nice and stiff, which is awesome. We have full stainless hinges that roll all the way through, and nice and big chunky connection points for those gas struts as well, so they are going nowhere. If we have a look inside, you will see full flat floor, so no lip going on here or anything like that. And we have extrusion everywhere, and that's what these little channel nuts are. I'll show you in there in just a sec. It comes with a whole bunch of them, so you can, I've put them everywhere, but basically you can no drill. So if you're installing stuff, I have had this actually in place for a couple of weeks, hence a few scratches from me playing with different configurations. We'll have a look at all the different versions here in a second. But one of the cool things is, because you've got all of this extrusion everywhere, basically the uni strut that goes all the way everywhere inside, it gives you the ability to run these little guys and basically bolt anything. Everything's M8, so you can just insert these little guys with the little channel nuts with the spring. I'll get one out. They look a little bit like that. You get a few bags of these, so basically that's the go, right? So these come with a bolt and washer and everything else, but once you take all that off, this is what you're left with. So as far as installing these, it's just a matter of dropping them in the channel. Two hands is much easier here. Let's see if we can do it one-handed. Wow, look at that. And then you can slide these guys anywhere in that channel, which is just awesome. So I've sort of dotted those around everywhere, but it just means that you can do stuff like this. So this is one of the modules that you can option out. Comes with these little cross brackets, which same thing, has the uni strut inside here, little cross, channel nut in there, and M8 same then in here. And this is a nice big spot where we're not sure, I'm working through that, whether we have one of those big boy little ovens in here, maybe even a cheeky microwave. I'm not sure about that. Popcorn at camp can't be beat. So we'll see, something will go in there, and then we'll talk about these other modules in just a sec. So that flat floor, obviously the whole way, and then the uni strut and the floor everywhere. If we have a look around though, you will see that everything is of a really good quality, great welds all the way through. The powder coat looks great all the way, and you can see that strengthening wise, we have the crossbars going all the way across, we have uni strut going all the way up, joining more cross uni strut there, and then you've got 4 lengths going all the way across. There'll be more on the roof when I install. I've got more of this stuff that you'll see in upcoming videos where we'll cross hatch that on the outside, bolting straight through into here, so we'll be able to attach some awnings and rooftop tent and all that sort of jazz. So you'll see that in some upcoming videos. But yeah, overall super happy with the quality and the strength, because that was a key design requirement as we were looking through this, to go, how do we make this thing super tough? I want to be able to put, you know, 100 kilos worth of rooftop tent on here and not have a worry in the world. And I think they've nailed that, because you can see we've got these uprights going all the way through the crossbars and everything else, and everything's all really nicely welded, even down to actually anywhere that there's a corner, there's more bracing on all of the corners all the way around, even on the inside here, and the whole sort of box and dice. So really stoked with the overall quality inside. I think this thing is going to be bulletproof. And then worth noting there before we move on is this is the jack off. I was keen to get one of these so that I've got the flexibility of removing everything and going back to the full Ute spec. If I'm, you know, moving a big load or helping out a mate or something like that, you know, it should be relatively straightforward to do that. As far as unbolting goes, I have gone one in the headboard. These are M10, so we've got on both sides exactly the same. We've got one going through here, and that goes through our factory hole that already exists in here all the way through, so it bolts the headboard at the top, and then we've got, you know, 7 bolts that bolts the headboard to the steel tray itself, so plenty of strength there. And then similarly, just in here, you may not be able to see that, there's another M10 straight through the uni channel, straight through underneath one of the supports on the tray itself. So to unbolt, it's just an ugga dugga with the M10 bolt, zip, 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 same on the other side, and it's ready to go. So then all you need to do is you get a pair of these guys on either side. They're dead easy to use. They're pretty simple thing, but they're just beefcake. They slot straight in the sides, and you've got a little winder. You can wind a little bit at a time until the thing's free, and then drive your car out. So if we have a look at the different modules, this is kind of part of that whole DIY, right? You can choose what kind of modules that you do want to install. They'll all be on the website. I've got them all here to have a bit of a sticky beak at. So this one is definitely going to be a keeper. I'm going to leave this guy here. This is kind of the draw, slide out, prep bench combo, right? So of course you can put these guys anywhere. I think you can probably see just in there, there's one bolt there, another couple on the other side. Might be easier down that way, Adam, if you have a look. Yeah, cool. So that's the whole idea. So you can slide this guy, undo those, and literally slide the whole thing across, basically put it anywhere. Technically, you could even put it on the roof if you really wanted to, because you've got the uni strut there too. But ultimately, this guy is a drawer. Really good locking draw slides as well. So if you're on a bit of an angle, these guys will lock into place. I've already started having to play with some 3D print stuff as far as charge cable goes, and, you know, straps and all of that sort of stuff. So you'll see this evolve as we fit out the full sort of setup. If you are looking for any of this sort of stuff, head on over to the shop at VideoShowMeHow.com as well. Shameless plug. It all helps to support the channel. And then also you have this guy, which is a full pull-out stainless bench. So all in all, this thing hangs out quite a ways, which is pretty cool, and full stainless bench top. So on here, we could be cooking, you know, you could easily, you know, prep on here, maybe cook up, stop for a bit of a cook up, maybe, you know, prepping coffee in the morning, all of the above when you don't want to get the whole thing out. So that's pretty awesome, and I've been loving using that over the last couple of weeks. The second option here is the fridge surround. So there's lots of big cutouts in here that you can see for routing your cables and want to have you heaps of venting all built in all around the sides. So if you are running an upright, this is an ideal option just to give it a little bit more protection, particularly if you are perm mounting your upright fridge. It does come with this guy as well as a bit of an option that you can, if you want a base to lift your fridge up a little bit. I've got a little 85 litre over there to have a bit of a play with. So if you wanted that to be full height, you just basically put the, it's already sort of pre-drilled, ready to roll. It's all aluminium, all pre-drilled with some rib nuts, so that basically that will sit on top. It gives you a bit more height. I'm likely going to leave it at that height though, so I've got a little bit more room to, you know, stash bits and pieces. And then option number 3 is this guy, and this thing is pretty cool. This is a pull-out pantry, so you can see in here got lots of stuff. You got a bit of a shelf going on in there. We got these guys, you get little bungees all pre-installed. Oh, I don't know, a bit of spice rack going on, maybe your beers, I don't know, whatever. And then you pull those guys down and the whole thing pulls out there as well. So it gives you access from both sides to access, you know, whatever you want to keep in here. I think this would be ideal if you're going that full touring setup. You can have this guy in here. You can have all your hot sauce and everything else in here permanently. I don't know, probably your garbage bags, that sort of jazz in there. And then you've got a whole bunch of storage for your dry food. So that's an option there as well. Pretty awesome. Now, all of this stuff is aluminium, which I was a big fan of. 1 for weight, but then 2 with the powder coating. They're just going to be super hardy. I don't have to worry about any sort of rusting or anything like that over time. I can have this thing open at the beach as much as I want and never have to worry about any of that sort of stuff. So that's the quick overview there. Now, if we move on to how I'm going to be setting this up, and I guess what you're going to be seeing in all of the upcoming videos, because of course this is our series on all of this sort of stuff. So we'll be doing a step-by-step how-to on each of the different components. So let's have a look at what we're going to do. So definitely the first thing will be fitting out the rest of this drawer. I'm going to be pulling all the rest of the gear that I used to have in the bags and other, the StoreMod in particular. If you're still running a tub, check that out, storemod.com.au. That's our modular storage solution. And maybe some StoreMod stuff making a bit of an appearance in here, but keep an eye on the website. If you've got a tub, that might be right up your alley. Just have a look. So sort of along that same vein, I'm really keen to have stuff in here that I constantly sort of need access to. If I'm out on the tracks, if I'm doing a quick beach run, even just I need stuff to charge something, you know, I've got stuff in here that will charge your phones, charge your UHF radios, you know, solar panel stuff, power bank stuff, all of the above. So I'm going to continue fitting this out as I work through that. Coffee in here, you know, camping knives, you know, torches, that sort of jazz. And this module here will definitely stay put full time. This guy up here, definitely going to be keeping that guy around as well. I think that's a really nice spot just to keep one of those little ovens. Or like I said, I'm a big fan, big sucker for popcorn, and I had a mate who brought his little microwave running off his power bank, and we had popcorn around camp, and it was the best thing ever. So I got a bit of envy about that, so I may have to sneak something in there. We'll see. I can't even believe I'm saying those words, but we'll see what happens there. Keep an eye out on future vids. Over this side will be our control panel. So that's where all the Victron screen will be, as well as our switches and other bits and pieces. Still working through that. You'll see that in the dedicated full 12 volt install that is coming soon. As far as fridge goes, I haven't had a play with an upright there before. I showed you the one hanging out over there. We're going to be having that installed in here, and I've made a little bracket in here that I'll be able to permanently bolt the thing down, because I don't think I'm going to use this, mainly because I probably don't need it in the fact that it's not going to be permanent. So with the fridge, I've got a little bracket here I've made up on the side, and then also the brackets at the rear. So these guys are permanently mounted to the fridge itself. So just like the chest fridge that I'm used to, that I usually use, how I would sort of put that in the tub and take it out, I'll be doing the same, but it'll just be an upright. And then because we have all of our little channels with our channel nuts, it literally takes about 60 seconds. I took this out just before doing the video, and it was seriously 30-60 seconds with our little ratchet spanner, and out she comes. So in my setup, I don't think I'm going to be needing the full sort of perma mount fridge. And then same for this guy, because I'm not going to be going a full touring setup. I want to have as much space in here normally as I can, because I'm still going to be doing Yuuge things with this. You know, I'm still going to be picking up, you know, a load of firewood, for example. I'm still going to be doing some tip runs, you know, all that sort of jazz. So ideally, at the back here, it's still want it to be relatively clean. So I'll show you what I mean. So this is what I mean. This will be sort of the day-to-day setup, where most of the space in here is going to be free. It's going to be available. So it's less weight I'm lugging around, because I do a few Ks during the week, but then also it gives the flexibility to still load a fair bit of gear in here if I need to. And then from a 12 volt perspective, if you watched any of my videos, you know we're going to have a monster 12 volt video, 12 volt video, but also 12 volt setup. So I'm going to be able to use most of the gear from the tub setup, but there's a few extra bits in here as well. We have a 400 amp hour battery that's just getting a box put together at the moment, just over there. That's going to live just in here. And then from a 12 volts perspective, we're going to put it on the wall. I was going to do this big sort of tower of power here in the middle, but now that I've sort of been living with it for a couple of weeks, I kind of like the pass-through going on there. So if I've got longer items like chairs or anything like that, I could kind of stash it all the way across without losing all that height, or sort of preventing it from coming all the way through, because I'd have some sort of a wall there. So not going that path now. We're going to have the battery that sits in there. It comes to about yay, and it comes out to pretty much bang on that strut there. So we're going to be able to bolt it down nice and securely, and it will sit below here. So if you imagine just sort of box hanging out at the back of this guy here, it should be nice and tucked away and not really you know, getting in too much in anything's way. So that's going to be where that lives. And then we'll have a full wall here, which will have all the 12 volt gear. We're talking, we'll have 240 based in here as well, 3000 watt inverter with a bunch of GPOs, using some ZOY 240, which sounds insane, but it's all legal. Can't wait to show that in a video. We're going to have twin DC 50 amps, so we can really get some juice back in the battery. You know, a couple of MPPT canopies, 240 charger, and a whole bunch of other control modules for our lights and compressors and bits and pieces. So really looking forward to building that. That'll be its dedicated own video. Living up here, just behind here, we are going to be whacking in a bit of hot water. And this is a full 12-volt hot water system because I'm continuing the journey on a gasless setup, and we've got plenty of energy storage here at about 5,100 watt hours. So I'm going to have a crack at running a little water, 12-volt water heater, and that's going to live on the extrusion sitting just up there. You'll see that as part of the upcoming water video, because on this side, this is where we will have a couple of pumps that live in there. I'm going twin pumps, one to run the pressure system for the kitchen and a couple of outlets, one over there and one over that side. But then also I want to have a dedicated water pump that will be designed to pull water in and bypass the rest of the system. And then working our way around will be our air. So dedicated air compressor. I'm hoping I can sneak the tough terrain quad pot one, but it may not fit in here. So we will see what happens, because I am a little limited in space there. It's not enormous. I can definitely get my TGM Pro Comp one in there, and it's able to slide. It lives about there, it goes all the way up. Definitely I've got one of the tough terrain hose reels, the auto retractor ones that you saw in a video a couple of videos ago. So that's going to live in there as well, and you know, extra hose, that sort of stuff. So the intent is that if the canopy itself is off, I will still have access to the air compressor and you know, ability to pump the tires back up, but then also all of our water will still have access to that, and likely put a little water tap on this nice little flat section here, which looks like it's made for it. We'll have a gravity fed one just there as well. So that's kind of the setup. You'll see that in its own video coming soon. And then as far as lighting goes, definitely rigging up something here using these reinforcement plates, just working through which way to go. Let me know what you've put in your canopy. I've always run the white and orange, but thinking about going the red and white this time. Is red better for bugs than orange? I don't know. Let me know what you reckon if you've run both. So I'm thinking about going the red. The intent is that there'll be lighting in there, and over the other side. Of course, we want lots of light just in here, because this is where we'll do majority of our cooking. And then similarly in here, when we're pulling out our table here, we're going to want plenty of light directly under there for whatever activities we're getting up to on our stainless table. And then as well as all that, just a few other things you'll see that will make a return from the tub setup that I had in the DMAX, even down to I'm eyeing off how I can mount that table that drops down from the roof, just to use a bit of the dead space there. So we've got another table sort of on hand if we need it. You know, our shovel and axe holders, whether that goes in the roof or whether they sort of live in there. I think I've got the little axe in here. Yeah, that guy just there, whether that sort of stays in there, or you know, whether it's up here somewhere. Thinking on one of the doors, easier to get to perhaps if you're, you know, stuck in the mud or something like that. So there'll be a few of those sort of things. So I think that about covers it. Let me know what you reckon. That's the full walkthrough of the Jackoff aluminium 3-door canopy. Is this something you'd go for? Have you got a canopy? Do you think I've made a horrible mistake going to this as opposed to the tub? Interested in all the thoughts. I'm keen to learn from you guys as well. So let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because there is a full fit out on the way with this part of the final build series of the DMAX. We'll see how final, but I'm going with final for the moment. We'll see. But yeah, that is it for this one. So as always, guys, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.